Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a beer from 50 West Brewing Company based in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is a beer that I saw from tavour, as most of my beers come, and I thought it sounded pretty awesome. It's one of my favorite German styles of beer that is specifically Radler. This beer is called Oh Yeah Blue Drink. Clocks in at 4.5% ABV. So the name on this kind of makes me think that maybe it might have some other additive or coloration to it, because Radlers are traditionally a pale yellow. Radler is a traditionally mix about 50-50 of lemonade plus a light lager. And it was brewed for German bicyclists and racing. They wanted their beer, but they wanted something refreshing while they were racing around on their bikes. And the Radler was born. In German, the word for bicycle is Fahrrad, and a person who rides a bicyclist, is a Radfahrer. So Radler, the root coming from bicycle, Radler. So, can art on this one. It's got a picture of blue drink. We won't name brands, but it kind of gets me in the mood. So I don't know what to expect when I crack this can, but it's got the right ABV range for the style. So let's just get this cracked gently. Yep, and I can already see blue tinge out of the top of this can. So, oh yeah, blue drink. So yeah, bluish green. It's hard to make a truly blue beer because, as we all know, most beer from the malt base is yellow, and blue plus yellow equals green. So there you go. But oh yeah, blue drink. I get it. I see what they're doing with this. Pretty cool. Gotta say, I've never seen a Radler that color. Yeah, it's definitely a bluish green, but I would say it's mostly green compared to blue. But it does have a lot of blue in it for the shade of green. But nonetheless, it looks absolutely stunning and unique in this glass. A brightly colored beer indeed. Very effervescent, as is typical with the Radler. And this one has a small mix of smaller, medium-sized bubbles kind of clinging off the side of the glass, rising up, but a very, very nice, super tiny, very champagne-like fine stream coming straight up out of the bottom up, and obviously it had no problem forming a nice head here. Let's get right up over it for a sniff and see what we get. Well, it definitely smells of a Radler. It absolutely smells like a mix of beer and lemonade, but there's definitely something else in here. I don't know if maybe they added blue raspberries or blueberries, but aside from the citrus and the beer base itself, there's definitely some other fruit. So it'll be interesting to jump in and see exactly what they did with this, but I gotta say, this is meeting my expectations for an interesting beer. So let's just jump right in, see what this one's about. Oh yeah. Ha! Funny. Oh yeah, blue drink. Yeah, that's really, really good. Okay, so this is classic Radler with a twist, and not just visually. I don't know exactly what they put in there, but if I had to guess, I would say they use blue raspberry. It definitely has a berry flavor to it, and it does taste noticeably of blue raspberry mixed with lemon. So it's kind of a twist on the classic Radler recipe, visual color aside, but it's very, very nice. And true to the style of a Radler, it's very light, it's very crisp, it's very refreshing. And it's got this nice kick, a fruit flavor up front, and then it settles back onto a classic, just a light lager base. And in this case, it's got a very classic grain-like malt bill that shines through on the back end. But you do still have this nice lingering fruit flavor that really blends with it. It's really, really great. This is one of those styles for me is quintessential hot summer day beer. And it's just perfect for it. It's light, it's not super heavy, it doesn't make you feel like you're drinking this big, thick, heavy, weighty beer, but you still get to have your beer. It's crisp, it's refreshing. And I gotta say, Radlers can kind of be a little bit over the board with how they finish. This one's very much wet and round to the end. It doesn't dry out the palate, which actually, for my money, on a hot summer day, that's what you want. I don't want a dry palate. I want a nice wet beer that's light and crisp and refreshing, and this absolutely fits that bill to a T. So we're going to jump back in for a second sip. I'm gonna pay attention to the body and the mouthfeel here, then we'll come back and talk about the finish and see what re-intensifies if I pick anything else out. Very, very tasty beer. Body on this is definitely medium light. It feels appropriate for the style in the ABV range. It's not a heavy beer. It's not supposed to be. Mouthfeel, there's actually a decent bit of resistance you can feel on this. 4.5%, it's not super high, but you can definitely feel that, yeah, there's some malts in there. It adds that little bit of thickness. We're not talking thick like a smoothie milkshake IPA or an imperial stout or anything like that, but it feels appropriate. The resistance matches the body and it feels right for the style and the ABV range. On second sip, you really get this nice burst of fruit up front and it's this big whoosh, and then it kind of slowly settles back down. At about the 3-4 second mark is when the malt bill really starts to open up and come to its own as well. And it's a very classic, very nice malt bill. We're talking grain, tastes very grainy, very bread-like, kind of got these crusty notes to it. It's absolutely delicious and it works perfectly. That is how a prototypical Radler should present itself. I've had many, many Radlers, some American craft. I've had a lot of different German Radlers over the years, and they're absolutely awesome, especially when it's hot outside. It's my go-to beer style for that. Luckily, Radlers tend not to be particularly expensive, so you can get plenty of really nice quality Radler without breaking the budget, and it's really, really nice. In terms of the finish on this, it's not a beer style with a super long finish, typically. That said, this is absolutely longer than average, but we're comparing it within the style. This is nowhere near, say, like the length on a big imperial stout or a big roasty porter or any kind of barrel-aged beer like that, but this one does leave you with a nice lingering bit of that lemon, and you know, I probably should have researched it before I looked into it, but it does taste like blue raspberry to me. I will research before I come back to my scores just to confirm, but I gotta say, it's absolutely delicious. I think it looks super cool in the glass. It's definitely a conversation piece if you're cracking this around some friends, but it's absolutely delicious. This is a very, very well done Radler, and I love it. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, come up with my scores. When we come back, we'll get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was 50 West Brewing Company's Oh Yeah Blue Drink, a Radler clocking in at 4.5% ABV. 50 West is based in Cincinnati, Ohio. And as promised, I did actually look up to see exactly what was added to this beer. They used a flavor of Kool-Aid powder called Cool Blue, which is indeed a blue raspberry lemonade flavored Kool-Aid. So what I was tasting was exactly what they put in it. It tasted like a mix of blue raspberry with lemonade. So kind of a twist, an interesting interpretation of a Radler, but it stayed relatively true to the style if achieved through different means. But let's go through the scores. So this beer did extremely well across the board. There were only 2 categories on this one where it did not get a perfect score. The first was in finish, which is kind of to be expected. And frankly, this had a well above average length finish and nice and wet to the end. Sometimes you get that dryness, but not always. This one was nice and wet and round, and it really was very thirst quenching. But it did actually have a pretty decent length on the end of the finish owing to the intensity of the kind of lemonade flavor and the blue raspberry. It was absolutely delicious. So the finish did get a 7 out of 10. And the head and retention. This one again was above average, but it wasn't perfect. You know, if this was pulled off of a tap, I imagine it probably would have been perfect or very close to it. Head and retention, though, did do above average. It gets a 7 out of 10. And then we have perfect 10s in all other 8 remaining categories. That's aroma, taste, body, mouthfeel, appearance, balance, feeling the intangible, my subjective thoughts category, and example of the style. So that does bring the total score on 50 West Brewing Company's Oh Yeah Blue Drink to a 94 out of 100. This was awesome. Not a traditional Radler by any stretch, but it was true to the spirit of the style. The base beer underneath it was absolutely a perfect choice for what they did with this beer. And then kind of going with this blue raspberry lemonade flavored Kool-Aid, that was a really clever way to achieve a twist on the classic. So I think it worked for me. I thought it was a really, really great beer. Certainly visually was very stunning and certainly would be a conversation piece. But if you like Radlers in general, or you like lighter, crisp, really refreshing beers for a hot summer day, look no further. This one was awesome. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop on our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit that bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.